It's my great honor and pleasure to be chairing this session. Our first keynote speaker this morning is Associate Professor Yavuz Kerem Demirbaş from Marmara University in Istanbul. Let me very quickly introduce our keynote speaker to you all. Dr. Yavuz Kerem Demirbaş is a researcher specializing in digital games and media. Before transitioning his passion for games into an academic pursuit, he contributed to Level digital game magazine and several other prominent computer magazines with game reviews. Since 2008, he has been an active member of the Turkish chapter of DIGRA, Digital Games Research Association, currently serving as the chapter's contact person. His research interests include the ontology of digital games, gamification, and game aesthetics. He's teaching digital games, gamification, and the media technologies courses. He's organizing the digital games section of iLab, Communication Research and Application Laboratory at Marmara University. He has been a visiting researcher at both City University of New York and Utrecht University. He has authored 2 books on digital games, Video Game Author and Oyuna Yer Açın, Dijital Oyunlara Eleştirel Yaklaşımlar. In the field of media studies, he served as the editor for Hakikat, Temsil, İnşa, Medyada Gerçekliğin Krizleri. In addition to his publications on digital games and media, he also has books on digital photography and 3D printing. He's the designer of the video game Huyz 2009, recognized as one of Turkey's pioneering examples of new games. The floor is yours. Dr.
Thank you, Professor Fukuzda. Do you hear me clearly? Okay. I feel like I'm taking an English exam because 8 departments of American culture and language schools are all together, and I'm not a native speaker, and I learned English from digital games. I have no proper high school or university English. So this is kind of like both a game and also an English exam for me. So I have a presentation text. I will read it. I want to stick it as far as I can do it. I can just diverge from it sometimes, but it's better that if I follow it at least for a while. So I will share a presentation if I can. I think I need a approval. Okay, yeah. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Before I begin my speech, I would like to thank our professors who contributed to this beautiful organization, the American Studies Departments of Turkey, for jointly making this organization possible, Hacettepe University for hosting the event, and of course, everyone who participated with their presentations. Since the beginning of my career, the primary focus on my studies was digital games. Different meanings, possibilities, and effects of games have always fascinated me. There has never been a time in my life when I have been away from digital games. I have played and still continue to play all kinds of games, not just computer games. So if I don't want to define myself as a gamer, it's only because the word gamer is being constructed as a consumer identity these days. So I prefer to see myself as a ludophile and a game researcher. Digital Games Research Association, DIGRA in short, is an important international institution for game scholars like me. DIGRA serves an important function for the spread of game studies internationally and for researchers to be aware of each other with the annual DIGRA conference it organizes and the academic network it creates with the Games Network email group. I suggest all participants to join this email group if they want to continue their studies on digital games. Another important resource in the field is the international online journal Game Studies. In the first issue of Game Studies in 2001, Espen Aarseth, a famous game scholar, published an article with name Computer Game Studies Year 1, which became one of the important milestones for digital game studies. In this article, Aarseth states 2001 can be seen as the year one of computer game studies as an emerging, viable international academic field. This year has seen the first international scholarly conference on computer games in Copenhagen in March, and several others will follow. 2001 may also be the academic year when regular graduate programs in computer game studies are offered for the first time in universities. And it might be the first time scholars and academics take computer games seriously as a cultural field whose value is hard to overestimate. In the same issue of Game Studies Journal, there's also a book review. There was also a book review by Jesper Juul. Like Aarseth, Juul too is one of the well-known digital games scholars in the field of game studies for his works in ontology of digital games and formal qualities of game design. He calls himself a ludologist, and the studies he conducts as ludology, the study of ludus, which means games in Latin. Juul, in his review of the book The Study of Games by Avedon and Sutton Smith, states, the current trend of computer games gaining acceptance may be the third wave of game studies, one that now needs to collect the scattered writings on games. The second wave of game research could possibly be ascribed to the study of games. Here, Juul is referring to the book he reviews. The first part of the study of games demonstrates how games have primarily been examined in anthropology and folklore studies. Here, Juul and the book itself refer to their first wave game studies example, which is Stuart Cullen's book, Games of the North American Indians. This book, Stuart Cullen's book, which is considered among the first wave of game studies, is a detailed collection of Native American games in 900 pages. The book describes the games with illustration and drawings. This anthropological study is one of the important works in the field in the terms of its scope and details. The games discussed in the book are categorized as games of chance, games of dexterity, and minor amusements. However, if you go back in time even further, it's possible to find more works related to games. For example, Lacrosse, the national game of Canada, by Beers, 1896 book on the game of lacrosse, or Arthur Tilley's analysis of Roman game, Ludus Latrunculorum, in the Classical Review of Cambridge University. I have no doubt that if we keep digging, we will find even more studies from earlier times. We have to wait for Johan Huizinga's Homo Ludens in order to be able to discuss these studies under the title of Game Studies. First published in 1938, Homo Ludens paved the way for games to be viewed as important things in their own right, with their own existence and form. Play would no longer be seen as a secondary phenomenon that emerged in the shadow of something else, like work or seriousness. The striking first sentence of Homo Ludens reads as follows: play is older than culture. For culture, however, inadequately defined, always presupposes human society, and animals have not waited for man to teach them their playing. In forward of Homo Ludens, who using a states, for many years the conviction has grown upon me that civilization arises and unfolds in and as play. Traces of such an opinion are to be found in my writings ever since 1903. I took it as the theme for my annual address as rector of Leiden University in 1933, and afterwards for lectures in Zurich, Vienna, and London, in the last instance under the title The Play Element of Culture. Each time, my hosts wanted to correct it to in culture. And each time I protested and clung to the genitive because it was not my object to define the place of play among all the other manifestations of culture, but rather to ascertain how far culture itself bears the character of play. Here you may see in the slide the footnote sign on the word genitive. Below, as the footnote English translation below as the footnote English translator states, logically, of course, Huizinga is correct, but as English positions are not governed by logic, I have retained the more euphonious and ablative in this subtitle. In his book, The Magic Circle, Principles of Gaming and Simulation, digital games scholar Jan Klebers compared Dutch and English versions of Homo Ludens. According to Klebers, Dutch version includes the sentence, culture does not begin as play and it does not begin from play. It begins in play. This sentence is missing in English translation. He also adds that a comparison of Dutch and English reveals that English in translation of the book is less consistent with Huizinga's basic thesis, underpinning the play element of culture. Since I'm not an expert neither in Dutch nor English language, I will let you, our dear professors in the field, to decide the accuracy of this decision of the translator. But one thing is clear, Huizinga strongly opposes the secondary role and importance given to the play and games. 1 year before the publishing of Homo Ludens in 1937, Corrado Gini conducts a field study of baseball-like games among tribesmen living in a remote village in Libya, which has done an Italian colony. Corrado Gini is well known with his Gini coefficient in economy, which measures social and economic inequality in nations by determining income distribution. A Danish historian named Per Mygard was seated in the audience when Corrado Gini represented his paper on these games at the 1938 conference in Copenhagen. At the time, Mygard was hard at work on his own research project, delving into the history of European sports played with bats and balls. In December 1941, Mygard published the result of his studies in an article entitled A History of Batting Ball Games in the journal Janus, which has the official publication of Genius organization in Rome. The call for papers written by Corrado Gini for 14th International Congress of Sociology in 1950 included games from the sociological standpoint as one of the subject areas. Mygard presented his paper about ludology at this conference in 1950. In his presentation, Mygard called for a new discipline, ludology. For him, ludology will be the science of games and apart sociology and the sciences concerned. After this conference in 1951, Corrado Gini, in his article on ludologia in Janus, stated, the study of games has indeed now assumed such extent and complexity and technicality as to give rise to a true science. This journal has often dealt with games. By publishing an article by Mygard, Mygard's article was followed by one of our own on the same subject, while more recently a review by Professor Castellano pointed out and commented on two notes by Professor Erwin Mehl of the University of Vienna, another specialist in ludology. The more distant the origin of games becomes, the more complex its study becomes, and the greater the number of disciplines to which it is convenient to draw for it. Herein certain lies a circumstance that recommends making ludology a separate discipline. In 1947, parallel to the timeline of this cooperation between Genie and Maigart, and even before them, Jose Lunazzi uses the name Ludologia for the study of games in South America in one of the bulletins for Museo Social Argentino. Between 1937 and 1951, we see that games move from being secondary elements to be studied in academic studies to the center. We also see calls for an independent discipline of game studies begin. The word ludology becomes a proposed name for game studies. The primary focus of this first wave of game studies has been on examining games from anthropological, cultural, ethnographic, and sociological perspectives. Cuisine and other thinkers of this period emphasized the study of game form, rules, player culture, game artifacts, the space and time of play, player experience, and the relationship of all these to culture and society more generally. For first wave game scholars, rhymes, songs, lyrics, tales, stories of folklore were a part of their ludological approach. Dromenon and mythos are not separated; they worked together. If we fast forward to third wave of game studies, we see the clash of different perspectives on digital games. This clash is reframed as ludology versus narratology debate in game studies, a conflict between game formalism and narrative formalism. I believe that the problem will not be succinctly put if we declare the size of this conflict in this manner as ludology versus narratology. If we reframe the conflict, we see that there are different sides: new media scholars, film studies scholars, media studies scholars, also game scholars, dedicated games scholars at the different sides of this conflict. New media scholars see digital games as their property, although one may say games are neither new nor media from Homo ludens perspective. Film studies scholars see digital games as the future of cinema, without any attention to gameplay as a primary element in digital games. Media studies scholars follows the false dichotomy between passive observer and active user positions to explain game-related phenomena. And last but not least, cultural ludology of first wave game scholars becomes a limited structural ludology. I own this criticism to myself because I also define myself as a ludologist. Becomes a limited structural ludology in third wave, with losing its critical potential, focusing on game design research to fulfill the industrial need. From my point of view, all these different approaches in this so-called third wave game studies have major flaws. One of the most important problem here is the interactivity paradigm shared by third wave ludology and narratology. Alexander Galloway, in his book Gaming Essays on Algorithmic Culture, states one should resist equating gaming action with a theory of interactivity or the active audience theory of media. Active audience theory claims that audiences always bring their own interpretations and receptions of the work. Instead, I embrace the claim, rooted in cybernetics and information technology, that an active medium is whose very materiality moves and restructures itself. Pixels turning on and off, bits shifting in hardware registers, disks spinning up and spinning down. Because of this potential confusion, I will avoid the word interactive and prefer instead to call the video game, like the computer, an action-based medium. The word interactive became a thing which is used to explain everything related to games and new media, but in reality, it doesn't explain anything anymore. In the Myth of Interactivity chapter of his book, The Language of New Media, Leomanovich states, quote, as with digital, I avoid using the word interactive in this book without qualifying it. For the same reason, I find the concept to be too broad to be truly useful. When we use the concept of interactive media exclusively in relation to computer-based media, there is a danger that we will interpret interaction literally, equating it with physical interaction between a user and a media object, pressing a button, choosing a link, moving the body, at the expense of psychological interaction. Here, interactivity replaces the rich and meaningful word related to games, play. This is happening everywhere. We see interactivity used for games a lot. Also, there's a shift from player identity to gamer identity. We play games, we play digital games too. When play replaced with interaction, we interact with the game, which can mean anything, including play. With this transformation, player loses its meaning and transforms to an empty shell, which can be filled by anything. Play as an experience gets erased. In the hands of gaming industry, player already got transformed to gamer, which is a consumer identity. Christian Fuchs and Julian Küchli use Playboy as the emerging new labor type. In Playboy, or our entertainment becomes work for the capital accumulation of digital platforms. I read all the abstracts of the conference before this presentation. Out of the 28 abstracts I read, 19 abstracts focus on games with less emergent structures, more branching stories, interactive fiction, adventure, and RPG games. 7 abstracts focus on games with more emergent gameplay, simulations, or environmental storytelling in open worlds. 2 abstracts are related to culture and sociology of players, but this was a quick and dirty analysis. Don't blame me too much, please. Following this observation, I want to suggest some critical points for student game scholars and our participants. My first suggestion here is this: please use interactivity sparingly and very carefully, because the explanatory power of the concept is lower than you expected, and mystification power is quite high. Technological determinism is always a danger present in our field. Fascination with the machine itself often leads to poor research. The quality of being called interactive doesn't make your object of study more attractive or effective compared to other examples. My second suggestion is, please consider analyzing game examples from different genres. An online game without quests, dialogues, NPCs, and with a bare minimum story is still a digital game and can be the object of your analysis. My example is here, the game DayZ, which I played a lot, like 2,000 hours, probably almost 2,000 hours. Although DayZ does not specifically tell the story of a protagonist, it acts like a story generator, which creates one-act tragedies in an apocalyptic world. If you consider Walking Dead adventure game of Telltale Games studio as video game equivalent of Walking Dead TV series, please think again, because DayZ uses most of the tools and formal qualities of game designs to create a better game adaptation of the series, from my perspective, for sure. Most of the abstracts interested in digital games with branching plots, quests, missions. My third suggestion is, please consider other narrative possibilities like environmental storytelling or simulation and emergent narratives. Elden Ring, DayZ, Stalker are good examples of environmental storytelling. RimWorld simulates needs and desires of NPCs in a colony, creating stories of these NPCs on runtime of the game. Football Manager, or with the old name Championship Manager, simulates football world with players, coaches, and teams, and tells the stories of these players. Which the game itself is a simulated football universe. So I can add a few more suggestions, but it is better to play this game of game studies without a walkthrough or cheat codes. Being able to read in English is already a bonus in this game for our students, because most of the important sources in game studies are in English. I'm so excited and can't wait to hear presentations of students in the field of study, which is not only academically important, but also fun. Again, I would like to thank everybody who contributed to this beautiful organization. Thanks for listening. Good luck and GG, as gamers say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think now we're realizing that video games can be evaluated by literary concepts and theories. And I think this is very exciting. All these video games at the intersection of various terms and concepts that characterize our societies. I'm thinking of concepts like neoliberal capitalism or environmental issues, and some video games come to my mind, pointing at, for instance, the importance of community organization against corporate domination, and many more. And I'm sure our conference participants have a lot of questions in their minds and would like to ask questions. You can put your questions in the chat box, or you can simply unmute yourself and ask your questions. So the floor is open for your questions and comments.
I would like to ask a question to Yavuz Hocam.
Yep, I'm listening.
Hocam, what would you say your favorite genre of games are?
These days or generally? Because it's changing
Yeah,
from
definitely.
month to month. I play first-person shooters a lot.
So like Doom, Wolfenstein.
Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake 1, 2,
Yes.
3. I don't play the new Quakes, but these days, DayZ, Stalker, and Squad. Actually, it's interesting to think about Squad. For instance, if you just watch a video of Squad, that this would be my first suggestion, but I just I forgot it. Like if you just analyze a video of Squad, you will see a war movie. But it's if you play the game makes you hate war, hate violence. It's like the book. There's nothing in the Western Front. What was the name
Nothing
of
new
it?
in the Western Front,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. The game is like that, but you need to play the game for analyze and understand the message of it. So it's implied, embodied in the gameplay. So the videos doesn't just give justice to this is the first suggestion. uh, Game analysis should just made with accompanied with playing analysis. So also narrative analysis needs to just focus also this kind of emergent issues in the runtime of the game. So a game researcher should be but this is also Huizing us point. Like we should see the games in the perspective of players and focus also the experience of the player as a scholar.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Can I ask a question?
Thanks. Ahmet Tuğrul Çüngür.
Yes.
You have a question? Okay.
Firstly, thank you for your presentation. Why do you believe that there is a watching community image, video community emerge, watching the playthroughs or gameplays? Like why there is no other watching movie together video community, but let's play together video community in YouTube?
I'm not sure I followed you because there's a problem with the microphone. Maybe you said I understood that you said there are let's play together communities, but not let's watch together communities, right? Did I miss something?
Tural, maybe you can type. So, there's a problem with your audio, so it will be better if you can just type it. Okay. Okay. While he's typing, maybe we can have another one. May I take the liberty? Okay. Yavuz Hocam, it was an interesting speech because certain concepts such as interactivity, which many people maybe jump at, being the first quality, so you quite aptly refuted that interactivity is not necessarily the most interesting. Actually, we should avoid, or maybe not put at the first place. How about concept of immersion? I think this is also a very interesting concept. I think some game researchers focus on the psychological side, you're immersing, and technological IT experts also try to create more 3D immersive games with all these new goggles. And also from the literary or cultural aspect, we want to be surrounded, I mean, culturally or in terms of the aura. Do you think the concept of immersion has a kind of central place in game studies as well?
Scholars like Gordon Kalea and some others from Copenhagen School of Digital Game Studies, they are literally from IT University of Copenhagen, Espen Arseth, Gordon Kalea, and many others. Aki Yarvin is from, again, most of these scholars are from Scandinavian countries. So they tried, they focused to immersion issue, and they just differentiated immersion, computer game, video game immersion from make believe of cinema or any fictional temporal narrative. So I'm not sure that that's 100% true, but if we think about Csikszentmihalyi's flow theory, there is a kind of just absorption of goal-oriented behavior, which can be just seen in a different light. So the game industry uses immersion as a kind of marketing term, but in the same time, there are research to analyze biometrics of players to create better captivating narrative structures or game structures, design structures. I see it also from an ideological point of view in my studies, because I'm mostly interested these days with the economy politics of games. The last presentation I made, presented last week in Ankara. I was in Ankara last week. Was on de-gamification, which is a kind of upside down version of gamification. That actually it explains a gamification in a better way, because gamification is deplayification actually. So I'm interested the concept of sportification by Adorno, for instance. In this kind of de-gamification, sportification, or pointsification issues, I see that the industry uses this idea of immersion, and I'm trying to find tactics and strategies for players to resist also to these kind of tactics, strategies of game industry.
Okay, thank you very much. As a follow-up, I'm taking more liberty. So coming from field of literature, as I think most people within this session are, we are more like, what you said seems to relate or take us to the discussion of the relationship between games and reality. In other forms of narrative, such as literature, or even films. So we are more likely to be on the, I may be using the wrong term, on the passive side. That is, we are following a narrative. So, but games invite us into taking part in the narrative. So do you think in this regard, games are better narratives in one sense, because they change the players or the person's reality, the concept of reality? You're shaping the reality instead of being exposed to a version of static reality. Do you think games and the relationship
I feel like this is kind of similar to the early communication research, like a magic bullet theory.
Mm.
Like media will just, we don't have any critical distance if we are involved in it. I don't think it's acting that way, because like games are very old, like digital games or games.
Mm.
We were always involved in this. If it's like that, Olympics is very interactive, and I mean, as an athlete in Olympics, you can just, raise your hand for Black lives, for instance, and resist. So I'm not sure that this kind of the dichotomy is true. And this old and new media issue for me is problematic, because games are very old media. Games are not media. Games are culture, or games are the function of culture to govern itself in a Hughesian way. So I always find it it's fascinating to see new media scholars think that games are new media, just a subset of new media. For me, new media can be playful or not. In these days, new media became, with social media, less playful and more and more less playful. And the start of a new media era with internet was very playful for me. Like, this masquerade, these identities, nicknames, and the textual narratives, the roles the people play was more playful. So new media can be playful, and for me, every media has this new media era at start. It is very playful. Then it encloses, and this possibilities got terminated by time, and then it becomes less playful. So upside down picture again for me.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe I should read out the text question. Ahmet Tuğrul Çüngür asks, why do there is a Let's Play community emerged on YouTube or internet more generally? Why people want to watch people playing video games?
I didn't study this especially, but what I think is, like, the absence of public spaces, the destruction of the public spaces created a need for virtual environments for be together, watch, play together, watch others play. I remember myself in my childhood going to a neighbor's house to see him play Commodore 64 or Amiga or Amstrad games. So that the need was there already. So now they took the neighbor's house, the neighbor, and being the feeling of being neighbor from us or from the children. So they just go find another virtual neighbor there in the internet, on the internet. And another thing, Minecraft, for instance. What is Minecraft actually? Minecraft is the virtual garden, sandbox garden for our youth, which who already lost the street, playing in the street games, or I don't know, like their playgrounds. So we always think that this Minecraft is a media. Minecraft is a narrative. Minecraft is a new media, digital environment. But it's also feeling very fulfilling a very concrete role in our society.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting answer. And Şevval Tufan asks, thank you for this very beautiful presentation, Yavuz Hocam. She says, and with the guidance of our professors in our department, I got to know your books and works, and they are really important for game studies in Turkey. My question is, what are the new areas you see in the field of game studies these days, especially abroad in our country? Has there been a field of study that attracted your attention?
I mean, critical game studies is seriously lacking. I hope that a kind of collaboration between the critical thought and critical studies and game studies will just develop because games are kind of lost to private companies, private companies and private interests. Like as I said, for Minecraft, this game is a very basic. Play is a very basic drive for us. So our children and ourselves need this kind of spaces. So the critical reading of industry should be done by our critical students and scholars more, I think.
I want to ask about the introduction of AI into games. And you talked about days and games like that, open world games where players can interact. And in games like that, or other games like GTA, we have limited type of dialogues with characters in streets, for instance. With the introduction of AI technology, like, can it change to an extent that players can enjoy dialogues in streets, for instance? How do you see that?
Already in open world games, many not scholars but many critics on YouTuber critics of games say that these games became hollow without AI. They are hollow. So AI will make them feel more hollow, I think, because like that human touch is needed there, and this is called art. Like either there will be other players, full of other players, or a designer there, a game author, somebody, a director, just you know, uh, making this human connection. Without that, or players or this, just fill these games with NPCs with AI, then this will be feel like gimmicky for a while, and then the people will lose attention, I think, and they will desire something else, maybe a different innovation. But check the YouTube famous game YouTubers, and you will see that GTA or others. Like there was this moment of open world games becoming very popular. Now the people say, okay, we have these huge worlds, but they are empty. Whereas the spatial experience is important. Minecraft has this spatial experience. You interact with the environment itself. The basis of the game play is interacting with that environment, and you do it with your online with your friends. So, and peace, yeah, like in the case of AI driven NPCs. So there are examples. Some people just combine ChatGPT with game NPCs, and I felt like immediately felt like I will just turn it off and read Dostoevsky. I don't know, like read something. Watch with these games. I feel like okay, just turn it off and watch a good TV series. Black Mirror, not Bandersnatch. Bandersnatch is a bad episode for me from my point of view. I know it's controversial to say something about Bandersnatch in this conference, but yeah, it's not my best episode.
So this is all very exciting. I'm really so looking forward to listening to these papers these 2 days. Really very exciting. My research interests are in environmental studies and also climate change. And I'm wondering what eco-critical video game theory would be like. I mean, approaching these video games from an eco-critical perspective, from a climate change perspective. Actually, one of the sessions is on that, I believe. We will hold 10 sessions today and tomorrow. And our conference participants will speak on various aspects of video games. And I just saw that our the second keynote speaker also connected. Dr. Mateusz Feltzak. So I'm saying hello to him. We will be listening to his keynote address tomorrow. As I said, we will hold 10 sessions today and tomorrow. The next session will start at 11 o'clock. So let's give a short break, about 15 minutes, and come back. Looking forward to seeing you in 15 minutes time.